Hey you, how's it going? My name is Ruby Price and today is my 6th vagina-versary. So what that really means is it's the 6th anniversary since I had my gender reassignment surgery, which I had at Leeds Spire Methley Park Hospital. The surgery has been performed by Mr. Fenton, who has since retired, I believe. Not sure what implications that's going to have on my gender recognition certificate application, if I ever decide to go for one. But yeah, 6 years is a long time. 6 years is probably about what people are waiting for in terms of referrals from the waiting list to be on the NHS pathway for gender reassignment. 6 years is a long time, and in those years things have changed a lot in terms of what my life has been like, what the world has been like, what the state of trans rights has been like. 2017, we were looking at, complete reform to the Gender Recognition Act and the processes involved in getting a gender recognition certificate. Self-ID was being talked about. But during those 6 years, we've seen a very loud minority of people come forth and put so much pressure on groups in charge that everything has just kind of turned a little bit to shit. We've got one of the most influential women in the world actively trying to push back against trans equality. And as a byproduct of that, we've seen LGBTQ rights almost across the globe almost pulled back and rescinded, without even talking about what's going on in America. The UK alone has fallen so far down in terms of LGBTQ equality rankings and things like that. Yeah, it's not been a good time, and whilst the Tories remain in power, the culture war surrounding transgender issues is just further fueling the fire that's going to be the tipping point of how the state of trans equality remains for the next, 5, 10, 20 years almost. I am genuinely worried about in the next 5 years, I will be in a scenario where going to the bathroom is a security risk. Is not just a security risk, but a risk for my own safety. It's almost at that point now, if I go to a bathroom, I don't want there to be someone there on the chance that they may or may not be of a certain view when it comes to gender and single sex spaces. And a lot of decisions being made that are directly impacting me aren't necessarily going the way I would prefer them to, and it just sucks. It just sucks, and it just sucks, really. With this being the 6th iteration of this video, the celebration of my vagina-versary, I don't really want it to become too bogged down with everything I've just said. Let's leave that for another video now. I don't know, but I did put out onto my social channels just to sort of what would you want to know about gender reassignment surgery. This is the 6th version of this video, and across that time I've talked a lot about my history with gender reassignment, but rather than just repeating what I've said before, I thought it would be a good chance to, twist what's being requested into, what I am then going to say. So I'm going to start off with a question regarding how tough it was for me to actually get gender reassignment surgery, and what are the challenges that people I've spoken to have or are facing in terms of getting it. So to answer the first part of this question, which I have done previously amongst different videos, but I came out as trans in 2012 and had my gender reassignment surgery in 2017. That is only 5 years, but I did look into that. But when you also then consider that the NHS guidelines is to have, dealt with and treat, anything else within 18 months, that's a long time. What actually made that journey shorter for me was I did a lot of the things that they require you to do on the gender care pathway for the NHS before I'd actually been required to do them by the Gender Identity Service. I changed my name before I was actually referred to any services. I was living in a gender congruent role, as they call it, which basically just means I was living as Ruby Bryce 100% of the time for the time period that was required for before they would actually provide surgery. The challenges that a lot of people I've spoken to are facing is obviously the main one being waiting lists. By the time I was discharged from the Leeds Gender Identity Service, I'd been with them between 2014 and 2018. Between that time, the waiting list had quadrupled, and since I was discharged in 2018, that gender identity clinic only started seeing patients referred to in 2018 when it was 2021 or 2. That's 4 years. If I'd had to wait 4 years between being referred to the Gender Identity Service and actually having my first appointment at the Gender Identity Service, I don't think I'd be sat here right now. Granted, the long wait times do obviously give people the opportunity to socially transition, but there are some people who won't start socially transitioning until they feel in a comfortable place to do so, and part of that is also following the gender care pathway that is laid out by the NHS. I've been asked what's the worst question that you can be asked after going through gender reassignment surgery, and I mean, the obvious one is, can we see it? You know, people are fascinated by things that are different, and obviously a neo-vagina is something that most people aren't going to encounter. What I would say is Google it if you're that curious. Obviously a lot of it does come down to just curiosity, and generally there won't be any malice behind the question, I hope, touches wood. But at the same time, you know, you are asking about someone's genitals, and you know, do you go up to someone and say, show us your dick? Do you go up to someone and say, show us your vag? Funny enough, to follow this up, on a scale of 1 to 10, how accurate was the cake that my friend made me for my 4th vagina-versary, I want to say? This cake? I mean, in terms of mine, it's not that big as the image. I wouldn't say everything was to scale. It tasted good though. No comment on accuracy there though. So finally, in terms of questions asked, what was the best thing and what was the worst thing about it? Let's start off with the best thing. Having gender reassignment surgery has ultimately improved my life. Whilst there have been incidents in my life since I had gender reassignment surgery, none of those have been to do with gender reassignment surgery. And if I hadn't had GRS at that point, I probably wouldn't have made it through those scenarios. Having gender reassignment surgery meant that I could be the most comfortable I've ever felt in my own body. I no longer had to deal with the most outward signifier of an issue with my sex at birth. The worst thing isn't so much a problem with gender reassignment surgery, it's more a problem with where technology is at the minute. In an ideal world, surgeons will be able to sculpt it so that it looks exactly as you would expect the vulva of someone assigned female at birth. Obviously, I'm putting an asterisk there and saying that not all vulvas look the same, and variety, of course, is very much common in this scenario. How I'm going to twist this from worst into a good thing is, of course, that the more research that goes into it and the more it happens, the closer the results are going to get. So whilst currently there are 2 options of a fully functioning and a cosmetic vagina, the fully functioning being one that you can have penetrative sex with, the cosmetic one being one that, you know, resembles a designer vagina, however doesn't have the same functionality. The further we go down researching surgical techniques, the closer the 2 are going to be, and I just think that's great. It means that the future, so long as the Tories and the Republicans and Posey Parker and all of the TERFs don't get their way, the future generations of trans people who want to go down the route that involves gender assignment surgery are going to have better experiences than me. But my part in that in the sense that I have been able to contribute to make it better, I think is one of the best things about it all. Not to make it all about me. But yeah, a bit of a weird one for my 6th vaginiversary celebrations. I'm filming this in advance, but I will be celebrating with my friends, with food, with good company, and hopefully just not having to deal with the vitriol that is everywhere in the conversation about trans stuff at the minute. So I'll leave you with 3 things. Be gay, do crimes, and if you see a TERF, don't punch them in the face, but let them know that they're on the wrong side of history. So I hope I've edited this in a way that makes it coherent and makes it seem like I actually know what I'm talking about. Obviously, the key topic of this video being my own vagina, you would hope I know what I'm talking about, but yeah. If you're already subscribed to this channel, thank you. I'm sorry it's a bit quiet at the minute. I'm fully aware that I said I wanted 12 videos by the end of the year in February. We're now in July and I've made 2, including this one. Yeah. But if you're not subscribed, do a lot of generic YouTube stuff. Like, share, comment and subscribe. As always, I've been Ruby Price and I shall see you next time. Adios. Bye.
This video was brought to you by Patreon.